Captain Hansol Kim stood on the bridge of the Taeguk, watching the stars through the main window. He had been in space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The ship was far from Earth, farther than any human had ever traveled before. They were in the Vega system, looking for new worlds and new life. "Captain, we are getting something strange on our sensors," said Commander Dion Park. She was his second in command, and he trusted her completely. Her voice was calm, but he could hear worry in it. Hansol walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Something big. Really big. It does not look like a planet or a star. It looks like a structure." Chief Engineer Woo Jin Lee looked up from his controls. "The readings are off the charts, Captain. Whatever it is made of materials we have never seen before." Dr. Ji-won Choi, the ship's science officer, was already working on her computer. "Captain, I am getting energy readings that suggest advanced technology. This is not natural." Hansol felt his heart beat faster. After 300 years of looking, had humanity finally found alien life? "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge go quiet. It was a massive structure that looked like it was made of crystal and metal. It was bigger than any city on Earth, floating in space like a jewel. Lights moved through it in patterns that seemed almost alive. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Tae Young-yoon from the weapons station. "Captain, what do we do?" Hansol thought for a moment. This was what they had trained for, but now that it was happening, it felt unreal. "Follow first contact protocols. Send the standard peaceful greeting message in all Earth languages. Make sure they know we come in peace." "Yes, sir," said Da-un. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. Message sent. Now we wait. The wait was the hardest part. Minutes felt like hours. The crew watched the alien structure, looking for any sign of response. The Taeguk was small compared to the alien station, like a tiny boat next to a mountain. "Captain," said Ji-won suddenly, "I am detecting a scan." "They are scanning our ship." "What kind of scan?" Hansol asked. "Basic sensor sweep. They are looking at our hull, our engines, our basic systems. Nothing deep. It feels like curiosity." Then it happened. A new voice came through the ship's speakers. It was not human, but somehow the words were clear. "Unknown vessel. You are from the third planet of the Yellow Star. We are the Valari. State your purpose." Hansol stepped forward. This was the moment that would change human history. "This is Captain Hansol Kim of the Earthship Taeguk. We come in peace. We are explorers, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again. "You will send a small group to our station." "We will meet." Daeun looked at Hansol with worry. "Captain, we do not know anything about them. It could be dangerous." "Everything about this is dangerous," Hansol replied. "But this is why we are here. Prepare a shuttle. I will lead the team." "Sir, I should go instead," said Tae Yang. "No, this is too important. If something goes wrong, the ship needs its tactical officer." Hansol looked around the bridge. "Daeun, you have command. If anything happens to us, take the ship back to Earth immediately." The shuttle bay was busy as the team prepared. Hansol chose 4 people to go with him. Dr. Ji-won for her scientific knowledge, Lieutenant Minho for security, Engineer Sora for technical support, and translator Yuna, who knew 17 languages. As they flew toward the alien station, Hansol looked at his team. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Whatever happens, we stay calm and respectful." The alien station grew larger as they approached. Up close, it was even more amazing. The crystal walls seemed to glow from within, and strange symbols moved across its surface like living writing. An opening appeared in the station's side, just big enough for their shuttle. As they flew inside, lights guided them to a landing area. The shuttle touched down gently on a surface that looked like polished stone. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported Sora, checking her instruments. "Temperature is good. Gravity is a little lighter than Earth. They put on their environmental suits anyway. Better to be safe." As they stepped out of the shuttle, a group of aliens came to meet them. The Valari were tall and thin, with skin that had a slight blue tint. Their eyes were large and dark, and they moved with grace. They wore robes that seemed to be made of the same crystal material as their station. The lead alien stepped forward. "I am Scholar Prime Zephys. Welcome to our home." Hansol bowed slightly. "Thank you for meeting with us. We are honored." "You are the first new species we have met in a very long time," said Zephys. "We have many questions." "As do we," replied Hansol. They were led through corridors that were like nothing on Earth. The walls were transparent, showing the stars outside. Gardens floated in the air without any support. It was beautiful and impossible. They reached a large room where more Valari waited. The most important-looking one sat on what might have been a throne made of living crystal. "I am Supreme Archon Kelvith," he said. "Tell us about your people." For the next several hours they talked. Dr. Jiwan shared information about human science and culture. The Valari seemed very interested in how quickly humans had developed technology. "Your species is very young," said Kelvith. "Yet you have achieved much in a short time. How is this possible?" "Humans are good at solving problems," explained Jiwan. "When we face challenges, we find new ways to overcome them." The Valari looked at each other. Something passed between them that the humans could not understand. "We would like to learn more about your people," said Zephys. "Would you allow us to study your ship and your culture?" Hansol thought about this. "We can share some information, but we must be careful. Our people have learned to be cautious with new friends." "Of course," Ame said Kelvith. "We understand caution. We have been exploring space for thousands of your years. We know that knowledge must be shared carefully." The talks continued for 3 days. The humans learned that the Valari Empire was ancient and vast. They had been the dominant power in this part of the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed. They were peaceful but powerful, more interested in knowledge than conquest. The Valari learned about Earth, about human history and achievements. They seemed fascinated by how humans had gone from primitive tools to space travel in such a short time. "Your species adapts quickly," observed Zephys during one of their meetings. "Most species take much longer to develop." "Humans have always had to adapt to survive," said Dr. Jiwan. "Our world has many different environments. We learn to change or die." On the 3rd day, Supreme Archon Kelvith made a proposal. "We would like to conduct a cultural assessment of your vessel. This is standard procedure when we meet new species. We scan to better understand your technology and society." Hansol discussed this with his team privately. "What do you think?" he asked. "Their scans so far have been surface level," said Jiwan. "If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already." "The information exchange has been fair," added Yuna. "They have shared as much as we have." Hansol made his decision. "We agree to the scan, but only external systems. Our internal databases remain private." "Understood," said Kelvith. "The scan will take place tomorrow." That night, back on the Teguk, Hansol met with his senior officers. "How do you feel about our new friends?" he asked. "They seem genuine," said Daun. "But there is something they are not telling us." Wu Jin nodded. "Their technology is far beyond ours. If they wanted to take our ship, we could not stop them." "Their questions about human adaptability worry me," added Taeyang. "Why are they so interested in how we develop?" "Maybe they want to learn from us," suggested Jiwan. "Not all knowledge is about technology. Sometimes wisdom comes from how a species thinks." The next morning, the Valari conducted their scan. The Teguk was bathed in a gentle blue light for several minutes. The crew felt nothing, and their instruments showed no damage. "Scan complete," announced Zephys over the communication link. "Your vessel is most interesting. We have much to discuss." The meetings continued for another week. Trade agreements were discussed. The Valari offered advanced materials in exchange for human art and literature. They seemed especially interested in human stories about overcoming impossible odds. "Your people tell many stories about fighting against greater powers," noted Kelvith. "Why is this theme so common?" "Because it happens often in our history," replied Hansol. "Humans do not give up easily." The Valari exchanged looks again. Hansol was beginning to recognize that look, though he did not understand what it meant. Finally, it was time for the humans to return to Earth. They had enough information to keep Earth's scientists busy for years. More importantly, they had made contact with an advanced and seemingly peaceful alien civilization. "This has been a successful first meeting," said Supreme Archon Kelvith. "We hope to continue these discussions." "So do we," replied Hansol. "Perhaps next time some of your people could visit Earth." "Perhaps," said Kelvith, but something in his voice had changed. As the Teguk prepared to leave, Zephys made one final request. "We would like permission for one more scan, a deeper cultural analysis to better understand your species before you go." Hansol hesitated. Something felt different about this request. But they had come so far, and the Valari had been nothing but helpful. Supreme Archon Kelvith stared at the data from the second scan. Around him, the greatest minds of the Valari Empire studied the same information. The silence in the crystal chamber was heavy with shock. "This cannot be correct," said War Marshal Vorthak, his blue skin darker with worry. "Run the analysis again." Scholar Prime Zephys checked his instruments for the 10th time. "The data is accurate, War Marshal. The deep scan penetrated their genetic memory, their cultural patterns, their species psychology. What we found is disturbing." Kelvith touched a crystal panel and images filled the air above them. They showed human history, wars, battles, conflicts spanning thousands of years. But it was not just the violence that worried the Valari. It was something else. "Look at this pattern," said Zephys, pointing to a series of graphs. "Every time humans face a threat, they do not just fight back. They evolve. They adapt. They become stronger." "Impossible," said Vorthak. "No species develops that quickly." "Humans do," replied Zephys. "Watch this." The images changed to show human technological development. Stone tools became bronze, bronze became iron, iron became steel. Then came gunpowder, engines, electricity, computers, space travel, all in just a few thousand years. "Most species take millions of years to develop spaceflight," said Kelvith slowly. "These humans did it in less than 10,000. "That is not the worst part," said Zephys. He changed the display again. "Look at their war patterns." New images appeared. They showed how human warfare had changed over time. At first it was simple, one tribe fighting another with clubs and stones. But each war taught them something new. Better weapons, better tactics, better organization. "They never stop learning," whispered one of the younger scholars. "Every defeat makes them stronger. Every victory teaches them new ways to win," added another. Vorthak studied the data with the eye of a military commander. "Their entire species is built for war. Look at their bodies. They can run long distances, work together in groups, use tools with amazing skill. They are natural soldiers." "More than that," said Zephys. "The scan found something else, something we have never seen before." He brought up new data, showing human brain patterns and social behavior. "They have something they call pack bonding. When threatened, they do not just work together, they become willing to die for each other. Complete strangers will sacrifice their lives to save other humans." The Valari looked at each other in confusion. This concept was foreign to them. The Valari were logical, careful, individual. They worked together because it made sense, not because of emotion. "Why would they do such a thing?" asked Kelvith. "Because to them, the survival of the group is more important than the survival of the individual," explained Zephys. "They have something they call love and loyalty that makes them fight harder than any logical being would." Vorthak was becoming more agitated. "You are telling me that this species is naturally warlike, adapts quickly, learns from every defeat, and will die for each other without question?" "Yes," said Zephys quietly. "And they are now aware that we exist," continued Vorthak. "They know where we are." The chamber fell silent again. The implications were terrible. "How long have we been the dominant power in this galaxy?" asked Kelvith. 50,000 years, replied one of the historians. "In all that time, have we faced a real threat?" "No, Supreme Archon. We have been unopposed." Kelvith stood and walked to a window that showed the stars. "And in all that time, how much have we advanced?" The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. The Valari had become comfortable with their power. They had stopped pushing the boundaries of science and technology. Why improve when you were already the strongest? "We have grown soft," said Vorthak bluntly. "While we have stayed the same for thousands of years, these humans advance every day." Zephys brought up more data. "Look at their recent history. Just 200 years ago, they could barely fly in their atmosphere. Now they travel between stars. Their rate of advancement is accelerating." "What happens when they have our technology?" asked one of the scholars. "What happens when they improve it?" asked another. "What happens when they decide we are a threat?" asked Vorthak. Kelvith turned back to face his advisors. "Scholar Prime Zephys, in your opinion, if these humans had our technology and we had theirs, who would win in a conflict?" Zephys hesitated. He was a scientist, not a warrior. But the data was clear. Based on their psychological profile and adaptive capabilities, the humans would win. Even though we have thousands of years of experience. Experience in what? We have not fought a real war in millennia. These humans fight constantly. They have perfected warfare while we have forgotten it. Vorthak stepped forward. Supreme Archon, I request permission to mobilize the fleet. To do what? To eliminate this threat before it becomes unstoppable. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some supported Vorthak's position, others argued against it. But Kelvith raised his hand for silence. What exactly are you proposing, War Marshal? A preemptive strike. We know where their homeworld is. We strike fast and hard before they can adapt to our technology or develop countermeasures. You want us to commit genocide against a species we just met? I want us to survive, Vorthak replied firmly. Look at the data, Supreme Archon. These humans are not like any species we have encountered. They are apex predators disguised as explorers. Zephys was conflicted. They seemed peaceful. Their captain, Hansol, was reasonable and diplomatic. Because they are weak right now, said Vorthak. Wait until they are strong. Will they still be diplomatic when they have weapons that can match ours? We do not know that they would attack us, protested one of the peace faction scholars. We do not know that they would not, replied Vorthak. Are you willing to bet the survival of our entire civilization on the hope that these war creatures will remain peaceful? Kelvith studied the data again. The human history was indeed troubling. Every time humans met another group of humans, conflict eventually followed. Even when they tried to live in peace, differences in culture or resources led to war. What about their internal conflicts? He asked. Zephys highlighted new information. Constant. They have been fighting among themselves for their entire recorded history, wars over territory, resources, ideas, even religion. But notice this pattern, added a military analyst. When faced with an external threat, they unite. All their internal conflicts stop. They become one people with one purpose. Elimination of the threat, finished Vorthak grimly. Supreme Archon, said another advisor. Perhaps we could simply avoid them. The galaxy is large. For how long? Replied Kelvith. Their expansion rate is increasing. Eventually, they will spread throughout the galaxy, and when they do, they will remember us. They will remember that we had the chance to help them and chose not to. They will remember that we are more advanced than they are. And they will see us as a threat, said Vorthak. The debate continued for hours, but as they studied more of the human data, the conclusion became inevitable. Humans were not like other species. They were something new and dangerous. Show me their military capabilities, ordered Kelvith. The display changed to show human weapons and tactics. Even with their primitive technology, their weapons were brutal and effective. Their strategies were clever and adaptable. Look at how they fight, said Vorthak. They use terrain, deception, sacrifice. They turn their weaknesses into strengths. And they never give up. Never? Asked Kelvith. The scan found examples of humans fighting hopeless battles for days, weeks, even years. Sometimes they won through pure determination. And when they lost, they learned from their mistakes and came back stronger. Kelvith made his decision. Scholar Prime Zephys, prepare a detailed analysis of human technology and weaknesses. War Marshal Vorthak, begin quiet preparations for a military operation. What kind of operation? Asked Vorthak. Complete elimination. If we are going to do this, we cannot leave any survivors to adapt and seek revenge. Supreme Archon, said Zephys quietly. Are we sure this is necessary? Kelvith looked at him sadly. Scholar Prime, you have studied their history. In all their thousands of years, when have humans ever met a more advanced civilization and not eventually challenged it? Zephys thought about this. Human history was full of smaller powers rising up against larger ones. David and Goliath. Greek city-states against the Persian Empire. Rebels against empires. The pattern was always the same. Never, he admitted. Then we have our answer. Prepare the fleet, but do it quietly. We do not want to alarm other species or give the humans time to prepare. How long do we have? Asked Vorthak. The human ship will take months to return to their homeworld. Then they will need time to analyze what they learned here. We have perhaps a year before they begin serious military preparations. More than enough time, said Vorthak confidently. As the meeting ended and the advisors left to carry out their orders, Kelvith remained alone in the chamber. He looked at the images of the human captain, Hansol. The man had seemed honest and peaceful. Under other circumstances, the Valarian humans might have been friends, but the data did not lie. Humans were too dangerous to coexist with. They adapted too quickly, fought too hard, and never gave up. Given time, they would become unstoppable. I am sorry, Captain Hansol, Kelvith said to the empty chamber. 3 weeks had passed since the Taeguk left the Valari station. Captain Hansol had started to relax. The initial meetings had gone well, and Earth would be excited about their first contact with aliens. He was reviewing his reports when Commander Da-Yoon called him to the bridge. "Captain, we are receiving a message from the Valari station," she announced. Hansol felt a spark of interest. "Put it through." Scholar Prime Zephys appeared on the screen, but something was different about his expression. "Captain Hansol, we have completed our analysis of the cultural data. Supreme Archon Kelvith would like to meet with you one more time before you return to Earth." "Of course," replied Hansol. "We can turn around and—" "No need," interrupted Zephys. "We will come to you. Prepare to receive our diplomatic vessel." The communication ended abruptly. Da-Yoon looked at Hansol with concern. That was strange. Why would they come to us? "Maybe they want to see our ship properly," suggested Dr. Jiwan from her station. "We have seen their technology. Perhaps they want to understand ours better." Lieutenant Tae-Yang looked up from his weapons console. "Captain, I am detecting multiple contacts approaching our position." "Multiple?" Hansol moved to the sensor station. "How many?" 12 ships, sir. Much larger than ours." Chief Engineer Wu Jin checked his instruments. "Captain, our engines are experiencing some kind of interference. Power output is dropping." A chill ran down Hansol's spine. "What kind of interference?" "Unknown. It is like something is pulling on our ship." "Red alert," ordered Hansol. "All hands to battle stations." The bridge lights changed to red as alarms sounded throughout the ship. But even as the crew prepared for danger, they all knew the truth. The Taeguk was the exploration ship, not a warship. Against one Valari vessel, they would be outmatched. Against 12, they had no chance. "Captain," said Tae-Yang, "the Valari ships are surrounding us." On the main screen, the alien vessels became visible. They were beautiful and terrible, made of the same crystal and metal as the station. But these ships had weapons. "Lots of weapons. Incoming transmission," announced Da-Un. This time it was not Zephys who appeared on screen. It was War Marshal Vorthak, wearing what looked like battle armor. "Captain Hansol of Earth," he said formally, "you will surrender your vessel immediately." "What?" Hansol could not believe what he was hearing. "War Marshal, there must be some mistake. We are peaceful explorers." "There is no mistake," replied Vorthak coldly. "You will transfer all data about your homeworld to us, then prepare to be boarded." "I do not understand." "What has changed?" "We were allies." "You were never our allies," said Vorthak. "You were a threat we failed to recognize quickly enough." Dr. Jiwan stepped forward. "War Marshal, if we have offended you in some way, we can discuss—" "Silence." Vorthak's voice cut through her words. "We know what you are. We have seen your species' true nature. You are warriors disguised as explorers." "That is not true," protested Hansol. "We came in peace." "Peace?" Vorthak laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Your history is nothing but war. Your entire species is built for conflict and conquest." "Yes, we have had wars," admitted Hansol. "But we have also had peace. We came here seeking friendship." "You came here seeking weakness to exploit," replied Vorthak. "You studied our defenses, learned our capabilities, discovered our location. Classic pre-invasion reconnaissance." "You are wrong," said Hansol firmly. "We are explorers, not conquerors." "Your engines are now completely disabled," announced Vorthak, ignoring Hansol's words. "Your weapon systems are being jammed. You cannot escape. Surrender, and your crew will be treated humanely." Hansol looked around the bridge. His crew was frightened but determined. These were good people who had joined Earth's space program to explore the stars, not to fight wars. "And if we refuse?" he asked. "Then you will be destroyed. But first, we will still take your navigation data and learn the location of your homeworld." The truth hit Hansol like a cold wave. "You are planning to attack Earth." "We are planning to eliminate a threat before it becomes unstoppable," corrected Vorthak. "Your surrender will simply make the process easier." "Captain," whispered Da-Un, "what do we do?" Hansol thought quickly. If they surrendered, the Valari would learn Earth's location and humanity would face extinction. If they fought, they would die, but they might buy Earth some time. "War Marshal Vorthak," he said loudly, "I have a counter-proposal." "You are not in a position to make proposals." "Single combat," continued Hansol. "Your champion against mine. If we win, you let us go. If you win, we surrender." Vorthak looked puzzled. Why would we agree to such a thing when we already have you trapped? Because you want to understand humans, replied Hansol. What better way than to see how we fight when cornered? Dayun stared at him in shock. What was he doing? Interesting, said Vorthak slowly. Very well. But when you lose, you will surrender completely. Agreed. The transmission ended. Immediately the bridge erupted in whispers. Captain, said Dayun urgently, what is the plan? The plan is to give Wu Jin time to work, replied Hansol quietly. How long do you need to restore engine power? With their interference? Maybe 30 minutes, replied the engineer. You have 20. Dr. Jiwan looked confused. Captain, you cannot seriously be planning to fight them in single combat. I am not going to fight, said Hansol. Taeyang is. The lieutenant looked up in surprise. Sir? You are our best fighter. But more importantly, you understand tactics. I need you to buy us time and gather intelligence about their capabilities. Understood, sir, replied Taeyang grimly. A Valari shuttle approached the Taeguk. As it docked, Hansol addressed his crew over the ship's communication system. This is the captain. In a few minutes, we may be fighting for our lives. I want everyone to remember that we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for Earth, for humanity's future. Do your duty. The Valari boarding party was led by a warrior in crystal armor. He was tall and moved with lethal grace. I am Combat Master Nexith, he announced. Who will face me? Taeyang stepped forward. I will. Nexith looked at the human with interest. You are smaller than I expected. Size is not everything, replied Taeyang. They moved to the ship's cargo bay, which had been cleared for the combat. The rules were simple. No weapons. Fight until one could not continue. As they circled each other, Taeyang studied his opponent. The Valari was clearly stronger and faster. His reach was longer, but he moved like someone who had trained extensively, but never fought for his life. The fight began with Nexith attempting to grab Taeyang. But the human was ready. He ducked under the alien's arms and struck at his knee. Nexith stumbled but did not fall. Clever, said Nexith, but not clever enough. He moved faster this time, trying to use his superior reach. But Taeyang had grown up in Earth's gravity, which was heavier than the Valari homeworld. He was stronger than he looked, and he had been in real fights before. More importantly, Taeyang was fighting for something bigger than himself. The Valari was fighting to prove a point. It made all the difference. The battle lasted 15 minutes. Nexith was skilled, but he had never faced someone who refused to give up. Every time he knocked Taeyang down, the human got back up. Every time he thought he had won, Taeyang found a new way to attack. In the end, experience won over training. Taeyang managed to get behind Nexith and put him in a chokehold that the alien could not escape from. Yield, gasped Nexith. On the bridge, Wu Jin was working frantically. Almost there, Captain. 5 more minutes. But Vorthak's voice came over the communication system. Impressive. Your warrior fights well, but this changes nothing. We will still take your ship. You agreed to let us go if we won, protested Hansol. I lied, replied Vorthak simply. We cannot afford to let you warn your species. That was when Wu Jin made his announcement. Captain, engines are back online. All hands prepare for emergency acceleration, ordered Hansol. Dayun, plot a course away from here. Maximum speed. Sir, they will follow us, warned Dayun. Not if we give them something else to worry about, replied Hansol grimly. He turned to Wu Jin. Can you overload our fusion reactor? The engineer went pale. Sir, that would destroy the ship. Not immediately. How long would we have? Maybe 10 minutes before containment fails. Do it. But do not tell me when. I want to be surprised. As the Taeguk began to accelerate away from the Valari ships, Hansol opened a channel to Vorthak. War Marshal, you made a mistake, he said calmly. What mistake? You told us what you really are. You are not the peaceful explorers you pretended to be. You are conquerors who destroy anyone who might challenge you. And now you know why your species must be eliminated, replied Vorthak. Maybe, said Hansol, but you made another mistake. You let us live long enough to warn Earth. You will never reach your homeworld. Maybe not, agreed Hansol, but we will try. And that is the difference between us and you. We never give up. The Valari ships began pursuing the Taeguk. They were faster and better armed. But they had made one crucial error. They had assumed that humans would behave logically. Instead, Han Sol ordered Wu Jin to reroute power from life support to the engines. Then he ordered all non-essential crew to the escape pods. "Captain," protested Daun, "we cannot abandon ship." "We are not abandoning it," replied Han Sol. "We are turning it into a weapon." The emergency session of Earth's United Colonial Council had been going for 12 hours straight. In the Great Hall in Geneva, representatives from every nation and colony sat in shocked silence as Captain Han Sol finished his report. "So you see," he concluded, his voice hoarse from speaking, "we have perhaps 18 months before they arrive. Maybe less." Admiral Kyung-ho Shin, the highest-ranking military officer on Earth, stood up slowly. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many wars. "But never a war like this. Captain Han Sol," he said carefully, "you are asking us to believe that an alien empire with technology thousands of years ahead of ours is coming to destroy humanity." "Yes, sir, because they scanned our ship and decided we were too dangerous to live." "Yes, sir." The hall erupted in shouting. Some delegates called Han Sol a liar. Others demanded immediate evacuation of Earth. A few wanted to surrender before the aliens arrived. Director Jun Seo Nam, Earth's intelligence chief, called for quiet. "Captain, do you have any proof of these claims?" Han Sol activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above the assembly. The Valari station, their ships. Recordings of conversations with War Marshal Vorthak. "We saved what we could before destroying our ship," he explained. Dr. So Young Kang, Earth's leading weapons physicist, studied the images with growing alarm. "Their technology is indeed far beyond ours. Look at those energy readings. Their smallest ship has more firepower than our entire fleet." "Then we cannot fight them," said one delegate. "We cannot run from them." "Either," replied Admiral Shin. "They know where we are." General Mi Young-jang, commander of Earth's colonial marines, leaned forward. "How many ships are they bringing?" "War Marshal Vorthak mentioned a full fleet mobilization," replied Han Sol. "Based on what we saw of their infrastructure, that could mean thousands of vessels." "Against our 12 exploration ships and 36 patrol boats," said Admiral Shin grimly. The delegates began arguing again. Some wanted to try diplomatic contact. Others suggested hiding in the outer colonies. A few demanded that Earth surrender immediately to save lives. But Dr. So Young stood up and her voice cut through the noise. "We have 18 months. 18 months to do what?" demanded one delegate. "Build weapons that can match theirs?" "No," replied So Young calmly. 18 months to build weapons they cannot expect." Admiral Shin looked at her with interest. "Explain." "The Valari have advanced technology, but they think logically. They build efficient weapons for efficient wars. They have never faced an opponent who builds weapons out of desperation." "What are you suggesting?" asked General Mi Young. "We cannot match their technology," said So Young. "But we can use our technology in ways they never would." "We can be unpredictable," Director Jun Seo nodded slowly. "Asymmetric warfare. We cannot fight them ship to ship, but maybe we do not have to." "Exactly," said So Young. "They expect us to meet them in space, fleet against fleet. What if we do not?" Captain Han Sol felt a spark of hope. "What if we take the fight to them?" "Impossible," protested one of the military advisors. "We do not even know where they come from." "We know where their nearest base is," replied Han Sol. "The station where we met them." Admiral Shin was beginning to understand. "A preemptive strike. Hit them before they expect it." "More than that," said So Young. "We make them afraid of us." Over the next 3 days, the greatest minds on Earth worked together to create a plan. It was desperate, dangerous, and probably suicidal. It was also the most human thing they could do. "Project Wildfire," announced Admiral Shin to the assembled delegates. "We will not wait for them to come to us. We will strike first, strike hard, and strike in ways they cannot predict." The plan was complex but simple in its brutality. While the main Valari fleet was traveling toward Earth, humanity would launch a surprise attack on their home territory. The goal was not to win, that was impossible. The goal was to hurt them so badly that they would think twice about exterminating humanity. "We will need volunteers," explained General Mi Young. "This is a one-way mission. No one who goes will be coming home." The response shocked even the military leaders. Within a week, over 50,000 people had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission. scientists, soldiers, engineers, even civilians who had never been to space. "Why?" asked one reporter interviewing volunteers. "Why are you willing to die for this?" A young engineer named Bora answered for all of them. "Because if we do not fight, everyone dies anyway. At least this way we die trying." The preparations began immediately. Every factory on Earth and its colonies was converted to military production. Schools became training centers. Research labs worked around the clock to develop new weapons. Dr. So-Young led teams that created weapons the Volari would never expect. Viruses designed to attack their biology. Computer programs that could infect their technology. Nanobots that could eat through their ship hulls. "Their weakness is their perfection," she explained to her team. "They build everything to work efficiently with their other technology. If we can introduce chaos into their systems." Meanwhile, General Mi Young was training the largest army in human history, not just soldiers but anyone who could hold a weapon or pilot a ship. "Every human is now a potential warrior," she announced. "Every colony is now a fortress. Every ship is now a weapon." The training was brutal but necessary. Humans learned to fight in zero gravity, in hostile atmospheres, in situations no military manual had ever considered. "The Volari fight like civilized beings," explained Colonel Tae Yang, who had been promoted after his escape from the alien trap. "We fight like cornered animals. That is our advantage." Director Jun Seo was working on intelligence and psychological warfare. "We need to understand how they think," he told his teams. "Every species has fears. We need to find theirs." The analysis of the Volari data revealed interesting patterns. They were logical, efficient, and afraid of chaos. They had been the dominant power for so long that they had forgotten how to deal with real threats. "They expect us to behave rationally," Jun Seo explained to Admiral Shin. "When cornered, they expect us to surrender or negotiate. They do not expect us to become more dangerous." "Good," replied the Admiral. "Let us give them something to fear." As the months passed, Earth transformed. The blue and green planet became a fortress bristling with weapons. Hidden bases were built throughout the solar system. Ships were converted into flying bombs. But the most important change was in the people themselves. Humanity had always been divided. Different nations, different cultures, different beliefs. The threat of extinction changed all that. "Look at them," said Captain Han Sol to his wife as they watched news broadcasts from around the world. "When have you ever seen humanity this united?" On the screens, people from every country worked together. Former enemies shared technology and resources. Old grudges were forgotten in the face of species extinction. "Maybe that is what the Volari really fear," she replied. "Not that we are warlike, but that we can become one people when we need to." The final phase of preparation was the most difficult. Admiral Shin had to choose who would stay to defend Earth and who would go on the suicide mission to strike the Volari. "I should lead the, attack force," said Captain Han Sol. "No," replied Admiral Shin. "You are needed here. You are the only one who has actually met them." Instead, the attack force was given to Admiral Da-un, Han Sol's former second-in-command. She had volunteered immediately and refused to be talked out of it. "Someone has to light the fire," she said simply. "Better it be someone who has seen what we are fighting." The attack fleet was unlike anything ever built. The ships looked normal from the outside, but inside they carried weapons that no civilized species would use. Biological weapons, computer viruses, self-replicating nanobots, and nuclear devices designed to poison entire star systems. "Are we becoming monsters?" asked one of the scientists. "We are becoming survivors," replied Dr. So-Young. "The Volari chose to make this a war of extinction. We will show them what extinction looks like." As the fleet prepared to launch, Earth held its breath. Long-range sensors had detected the Volari invasion force. It was even larger than expected. Over 10,000 ships heading toward Earth. "How long until they arrive?" asked Admiral Shin. 6 months, replied the sensor operator. "And our attack fleet?" "Ready to launch, sir." Admiral Shin activated the communication system that would reach every human in the solar system. "People of Earth and her colonies, today we begin the fight for our survival. We face an enemy that believes we are too dangerous to live. They are right. Across human space, 12 billion people stopped what they were doing to listen. We did not choose this war," continued Admiral Shin. "But we will finish it. We will show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. We will show them that we are not just dangerous. We are unstoppable." The attack fleet launched in secret. using hidden routes through space that would bring them to the Valari home system from an unexpected direction. Meanwhile, Earth continued its preparations for siege. "Do you think it will work?" asked Captain Hansol. Admiral Shin looked out at the stars where somewhere 2 fleets were racing toward their destinies. "It does not matter if it works. What matters is that we try. That is what makes us human." Admiral Dayun's strike fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valari home system. Before them stretched a sight that should have been impossible. Dozens of crystal cities floating in space around a dying red star, connected by streams of energy that looked like golden threads. "My God," whispered her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Yujin. "How many people live here?"
"Billions," replied Daun, studying the sensor readings.
"This is not just their capital. This is the heart of their entire civilization." The attack fleet consisted of 30 ships, each one carrying weapons that violated every treaty Earth had ever signed about civilized warfare. But the Valari had made this a war of extinction. There were no rules anymore. "Admiral," reported her science officer, Dr. Minseo, "I am detecting massive industrial complexes throughout the system. Shipyards, weapons factories, research stations. This is where they build their fleet. And it is all undefended," added Yujin in amazement. "They have no orbital defenses, no patrol ships, nothing." Daun understood why. The Valari had been the dominant power for thousands of years. No one had ever attacked their home system. They had forgotten that such a thing was even possible. They sent their entire military to destroy Earth, she realized. They left their home defenseless. "Orders, Admiral?" asked Yujin. Daun looked at the peaceful cities floating before them. In a few minutes she would give the order that would kill millions of innocent beings. The thought made her sick. But then she remembered Captain Hansol's report. The Valari had not just decided to destroy Earth's military. They had planned to exterminate every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. "Begin the attack," she ordered quietly. The human ships spread out across the system. Their first targets were the communication arrays and defense stations. If the Valari could not call for help or coordinate a response, the attack would be more effective. Lieutenant Commander Jin Ho, piloting one of the stealth ships, approached the main communication hub. It was a beautiful structure that looked like a flower made of crystal and light. Jin Ho armed his nuclear warhead and flew straight into it. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the communication hub was gone. Across the system, similar attacks destroyed key installations. The Valari had built everything to be efficient and beautiful. They had not built anything to survive a determined attack by enemies, who did not care about their own survival. Phase 1 complete, reported Dr. Minseo. "Communications are down across the system. Begin Phase 2, ordered Daun. This was the part that would haunt her forever, if she lived long enough to be haunted. The biological weapons. Dr. So Young had created viruses specifically designed to attack Valari physiology. They would spread quickly through the alien population, causing illness but not immediate death. The goal was not genocide, it was terror. "Deploying bioweapons on the main population centers," reported the weapons officer. Daun watched as small pods launched toward the floating cities. Each pod contained millions of engineered viruses that would spread through the Valari air systems within hours. "How long until they take effect?" she asked. 12 hours for the first symptoms," replied Dr. Minseo. 48 hours for full outbreak. "And Phase 3? The nanobots are deploying now. These were perhaps the most terrifying weapons in the human arsenal. Self-replicating machines smaller than bacteria, programmed to eat through Valari technology. They would consume ship hulls, computer systems, anything made of the advanced materials the aliens used. "Admiral," called Yujin urgently, "I am detecting Valari ships approaching. Looks like a patrol that was outside the system." Dayun studied the tactical display. 6 Valari ships against her remaining 28. Under normal circumstances, the aliens would have won easily. But these were not normal circumstances. "All ships prepare for ramming attacks," she ordered. "Admiral?" Yujin looked confused. "We are not here to win a space battle," Daun explained. "We are here to send a message. The message is simple. If you try to exterminate humanity, we will burn your civilization to ashes." The human ships turned toward the approaching Valari vessels. Each one was equipped with an overloaded fusion reactor that would detonate on impact. "For Earth!" shouted Lieutenant Commander Sora as her ship slammed into the lead Valari vessel. The explosions that followed lit up the Volari home system like fireworks. When the battle ended, all 6 alien ships were destroyed. So were 12 human vessels. But the message had been sent. Phase 4, ordered Daun grimly. The final phase was the cruelest. Human ships began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending images and data about what they had done to the system. But they also sent something else. Recordings of human history, images of Earth's wars, its struggles, its refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Videos of humans fighting to the death for their families, their beliefs, their freedom. Let them see what they are really fighting, Daun said as the broadcast began. Let them understand what happens when you corner a species that never learned how to give up. The effect on the Volari was immediate and devastating. They had lived in peace for millennia, protected by their technological superiority. The idea that someone could attack their home, kill their people, and poison their technology was beyond their understanding. But more terrifying were the human recordings. The Volari watched in horror as humans fought impossible battles and won through sheer determination. They saw a species that treated death before surrender as a natural choice. Supreme Archon called a Volari scientist from one of the orbital stations. The biological agent is spreading faster than predicted. It has already infected 3 cities. And the nanobots? Asked Kelvith weakly. Consuming our infrastructure. We estimate 12 hours before critical systems fail. Kelvith stared at the reports flooding in from across the system. The humans had done more damage in 6 hours than the Volari had suffered in their entire recorded history. How many ships do we have left in the system? He asked. None that are combat-ready, Supreme Archon. The nanobots have infected the shipyards. What about our fleet at Earth? No communication. The humans destroyed our relay stations. Kelvith realized with growing horror that the humans had effectively cut the head off the Volari Empire. Without their home system, without their industrial base, without their command structure, they were just scattered ships in space. Supreme Archon, called another aide. We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Admiral Daun appeared on the screen. Behind her, the Volari could see the burning remains of their civilization. People of the Volari Empire, she said calmly, you chose to make this a war of extinction. You decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. You were right. She gestured to the destruction visible through her ship's windows. This is what humans do when you threaten our families. This is what happens when you try to exterminate our species. We do not just fight back, we make sure you can never threaten anyone again. But we are not like you, she continued. We do not seek to destroy entire civilizations. The biological weapons will make your people sick, but they will not kill them. The nanobots will stop reproducing after 72 hours. Your cities can be rebuilt. Kelvith felt a spark of hope. However, Daun's voice hardened. If even one human dies in your attack on Earth, we will return, and next time we will not be so merciful. The transmission ended, leaving the Volari leaders in stunned silence. What? What do we do? Asked one of the younger advisors. Kelvith thought about the human fleet approaching Earth. 10,000 ships against a few dozen human vessels. It should have been easy, but everything had changed. The humans had just proved that they could strike anywhere, anytime. They had turned their technological weakness into a strategic advantage by being willing to do things no civilized species would consider. Recall the fleet, he ordered quietly. Supreme Archon, send a message to War Marshal Vortak. Full withdrawal immediately. But sir, we have them outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Numbers do not matter, replied Kelvith, staring at the images of human warfare still playing on the screens. Look at their history. They have won battles against worse odds. And even if we destroy their fleet, even if we glass their planet, they have already proved they can hurt us anywhere in the galaxy. You want to surrender? I want to survive, said Kelvith firmly. These humans are not like other species. They do not fight to win territory or resources. They fight for the right to exist. And beings who fight for their existence never stop fighting. The orders went out across Volari space. The great fleet that had been assembled to destroy humanity turned around and began the long journey home. When War Marshal Vortak received the recall order, he could not believe it. Recall? He demanded of his communications officer. We are days away from Earth. The humans cannot possibly stop us. Sir, there are attached files from the home system. You should see them. Vortak watched the recordings in growing horror. The human attack had been swift, brutal, and completely unexpected. But worse than the destruction was the message it sent. Humanity would rather burn the galaxy than accept extinction. "Sir," called his tactical officer, "we are detecting human ships approaching our position." "How many?" "12, sir." They appeared to be suicide vessels. Forthak understood.